Hello and welcome everybody. We'll be beginning this webcast in just a few minutes. Thank you for your patience. We had some technical difficulties. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's technology session brought to you by Frontier Precision. Today's session is titled Trimble Vision Technology, Capture What You See. Today we have Jay Haskamp, who is a technical support person and Trimble certified trainer for as a presenter. We also have myself. My name is Mel Philbrook, and I'm the regional manager out of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. We also have on panelists Steve Richter, who's the vice president of sales and also a Trimble certified trainer, and Brian Baker, who's a longtime Trimble certified trainer and also now the manager of our application development side of the house. We'll roll into the agenda here for today. We'll go over the value of Trimble Vision technology, and then I'll be passing the controls over to Jay, who will show you how to work with background images, and then go over field procedures on how to set things up out in the field. We'll then roll over some office procedures, and I'll be showing you guys how to run Trimble Business Center and set up settings there. And then Trimble Vision summary. We'll show you where you can learn more about Trimble Vision technologies, discuss some Trimble Vision bundles, and then have time for question and answers. Protocol today, we've muted everybody to keep the webinar on track, but we understand your time is important and your questions are important, and you'll have time to ask those questions at the end of today's session. Any question we're not able to get to or answer today, everybody will receive the questions that were asked today, and then you'll also see the answers sent to you at a later point, usually within a week. So let's get going here. Trimble Vision is really some exciting technology. It's not just about the ability of having a camera on a total station, though. Trimble Vision deals with really two parts, both aerial and terrestrial. And today we'll be talking about the terrestrial portion. Trimble Vision allows you to see what the instrument sees, which is has some value, and we'll discuss that. It also allows you to robotically measure objects that are within that camera view remotely using DR. And this gives you the advantage of not missing points, because once the image has been captured, you can photogrammetrically measure these points, and you'll see that in today's demonstration. Also, Vision allows you to capture scenes or images for documentation. I've been involved with Trimble technologies for over 20 years now, and I have to say that Trimble Vision is really exciting. There are three reasons why I feel that Trimble Vision technology is exciting. It allows us to do some things that are make traditional survey methods obsolete. For one example, we work with a lot of mining operations, and taking measurements on shear walls can be difficult. A lot of people ask, can I buy a 90-degree optical to add to an S6 instrument, and you can do that. But with the use of Vision, you're able to turn the instrument directly 90 degrees up and see everything that the instrument needs to measure through the display, and you'll see this through Jay's presentation. I believe it increases your opportunities. Today, clients are demanding more of a deliverable than just point numbers and a feature code. They're asking for attributed GIS attributed information, and they're also asking for GIS deliverables. you'll see today, through today's presentation, the ability of using vision allows us to output partial panos or 360-degree panos as a GIS output, and that's giving some of our customers more opportunities into their customer base. You'll also see the
Mel?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're probably not seeing it, but we're all seeing a square like in the middle of your PowerPoint. Can you just refresh your PowerPoint here? I think maybe something is sitting up in the background and it's putting a square in the middle of the screen. Right where your mouse is, there's a square.
Is there a way to have Jay bring up the PowerPoint on his and then show us from his, and then I can run it, Steve?
Sure. Sure.
Might be along with my browser.
So to change presenters here, let's just go ahead and try that one.
Just roll with it for 1 second, Mel. I got to dig it up, and then I'll switch it over.
Thanks, Jay. While Jay's doing that, we've seen the ability of using vision that increases safety and minimizes risk. The one application that I'd like to discuss, and it shows a great example, is that because everything that's seen through the camera on Trimble Vision can be seen on the data collector, we were working with the military on three total stations set up to be able to trilaterate or triangulate on the ordnance where they're landing, and that required 3 personnel out in harm's way. By the use of using Trimble Vision technology, we were able to become creative and mount 3 total stations, 3 VX total stations, into that same location, but using Wi-Fi on the data collector and vision, remote control, and do all the targeting and measuring with personnel back out of harm's way in an air-conditioned trailer instead of being in harm's way out in the field where ordnance is being dropped. So that's just an example of some great examples of Trimble Vision technology and how it can be used in non-traditional ways, and also to minimize safety and risk. Before I pass this over to Jay, some of the questions are asked: which versions support Trimble Vision technologies? You have to have Trimble Business Center Advanced. I understand there's a little square block in here. You have to have Trimble Business Center version 2.7 and later. You need to be running Trimble Access version 2012.10 is where Panorama was introduced, and Jay will talk more about Panorama. And then you also need to know that Trimble Vision Technologies is not supported in Survey Controller or Survey Pro. So I think it's kind of good timing. We'll be able to keep the PowerPoint up on Jay's side, but I'm passing the controls over to Jay, who will show you how to work with background images and also the field procedures on the access side. Jay, if you just want to take over.
Yep, I'll take it back, ready to go here. All right, can everybody, Mel, Steve, can you see my screen?
It's great.
Okay. All right. So a few things I want to go through. First thing I want to start with is just showing, this whole vision purpose of this webinar is just to show you the flexibility and the uses of imagery and photos and things like that to kind of supplement your survey data. So one part of that is using background aerial photography both in the office and in the field. So I just want to run through that process quickly to give you an idea on how that looks and how that works. What I have here is just a Trimble Business Center project that I have open that I want to bring a background image into and clip out, say, a certain area of it because I don't want the whole image, and then send it to my data collector. So first thing is having a project open, and we want to make sure that we have our coordinate system settings and everything else set up properly so things come in the right location. So I just have a standard US foot project template here. I'm going to go into my project settings, and I'm just going to set my coordinate system to the coordinate system that I need to be in here. So I'm going to hit change and choose my Stearns County. So now I have my coordinate system set. So in a folder here, I have a TIFF file. Now this particular TIFF file happens to be georeferenced. So the beauty of this is if your background image is already georeferenced, then as long as you set your coordinate system in the Office software, you can do a simple drag and drop, and it'll come in the right location. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to grab my TIFF file out of my Windows Explorer. I'm going to drag it over and drop it into my Business Center project. And it's going to go through the process of importing. Oops. It's loading the image. And there we go. So I've got my image. Now this is in the correct coordinate system. It's scaled properly and everything because it has the associated world file. You can also import images that don't have any kind of orientation and georeference them if you need to based on maybe some existing survey data that you have. To do that, you're going to go to the Data tab, and in the Data tab you have a background image menu. And in here you have a georeference button. So I can basically hit georeference, select my image from the list, and hit add. And basically what you're doing is you're choosing a pixel on a screen with a location or a point, and it won't rubber sheet it, but it'll kind of do like a rotation, translation, and scale to do a best fit for that image. So I have my image here. I have a project on my data collector that has some points for this area, and I want to use this as a background map. So the first thing I need to do is I need to specify the area that I want to cut out, because this file is way too large to simply put on my data collector. So to cut out an area, the first thing I need to do is go to the CAD tab, and I have to create what we call a plot box. A plot box is similar to what you would use to print something, to set up a sheet with like a paper size and a scale, things like that. But the plot box is also used to capture an area of an image to export. So in plot box, I'm going to give it a name so I know what it is, and I can specify which layer I want these on. So if I don't want to view them, I can put them on their own layer and turn them on and off. But basically I'm just going to have a paper size and a scale, and now it's asking me for my lower left corner of where that image is going to be, so I'm going to choose right about here, and it's asking me for my rotation. So when I want to clip a background image, my rotation either can be 0 or 90 degrees. So I want this to be vertical. I'm going to leave it at 0 by hitting enter, and then now you can see that I have my plot box right here on the screen. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close the window. Here's my plot box. So this is the area of this background image that's going to get clipped out and sent to my data collector. So now to cut that out, I need to go back to the Data tab, and under background image I have a capture button. And on the capture button I have the file name. So this is what the background image name is going to be, and I also have a browse button to specify where to save it. So by default it's going to save it to your Trimble Business Center project folder. Just to make this a little bit easier, I'm just going to save this to my desktop. I'm just going to call it background image, and then I can specify the resolution. So this is kind of critical here. Depending upon the size of the image that you import and the size of the plot box that you put in, or the size of the image that you're going to clip out, you might need to change the resolution, because these data collectors don't have the processing power of a computer. Sorry about that. These data collectors don't have the processing power of a normal computer, so we have to maybe water down the image or reduce the resolution so the data collector performs better and it doesn't kind of bog us down. So I'm going to change this from very high to maybe just high, and then the last thing I have to do is select my plot box, which is the image capture box that I just created. You can see that it highlights it right here, and then down on the bottom I hit apply, and now it's going to cut out the image for me. And you can see I can do multiple images and they will all just list right here. This is the only image I want, so I'm going to close the tool, and basically my work in TBC now is done. So if I reduce this, you can see right here I have background image and I have background JPG. I have a background image JGW. That's the world file that's going to tell the data collector where this image is going to go. So I need to take both of these two files here and I need to copy them to my folder on my data collector. So I'm just going to select them and hit copy. And I'm hooked up to a TSC3 through Windows Mobile Device Center. So I'm going to pick File Management, browse the contents of my device. So here's my controller's hard drive. Here's my Trimble data folder. And here is my user folder that I'm going to put it in. And I can see here's my job that I want to attach it to, so I'm going to paste it right in my user folder. Right here's my image and the world file. So now I have it on my data collector. So I'm going to pull up my data collector screen here. So now I'm in my project. You can see right here. If I go to my map screen, I can see my survey points that I have laid out. But now I want to load the background image. So what I'm going to do is hit my little up arrow right here and go to Layers. You can see in Layers there's my background image file. If I tap on that, it's going to load it with a check mark. I hit Accept, and now you can see my background image that I clipped out overlaid on my project. I'll zoom in here a little bit. And everything's georeferenced and everything overlays. So the nice part about this is I have a background map maybe for reference if I'm tying in maybe some existing sidewalks or curbs or something like that. Provided the image is up to date, it's just kind of an extra check to show you that you can see what you picked up. So that is the background image portion. The next thing I want to do is kind of dive into some of these other vision functions. So this is all kind of the field procedure. So what I did here is I just kind of created some videos of the field procedure since it's hard to do it live. So I'm just going to run through this and just kind of explain it as we go. So the first thing we're going to look at is just some of the media file or the vision settings in Trimble Access. There really isn't a whole lot, but there are a couple of them that are maybe a little bit important to cover. So I'm in General Survey, and I'm going to go to my my Jobs folder, and I'm going to create a new job. I'm going to call it Vision Example. And as always, when you're creating a job, make sure you go through and you double check all your settings. So I'm just going to go into my coordinate system really quick here. This is a total station only job, so I don't need to choose a projection. I'm just going to choose scale factor only. Check all of your other units, linked files, active map, all those other things. But the critical settings for vision and media files are on page 2 of your job properties. You can see right here we have a media file menu. So I'm going to choose choose the previous point on the box, and this gives me some options. So this is when I take a picture in the field with my TSC3, for example. I'm going to have some options. I can link that photo either just to the job. I can link it to the previous point that I just measured. I can link it to the next point that I'm going to measure. If I choose point name, I can specify or type in a point number. And then none means it's just not going to link it, I believe, to anything. So I'm going to choose, go through the settings here. Also, I have Show with New Media File. So if I have that box checked right here, when I do take a photo, it'll still allow me to change this setting on the fly if I need to. And then I also have geotag images. So if I'm working with, say, GPS, for example, in a state plane or something like that, and I tell it to geotag the image, when I take that photo with the TSC3 and I tell it to save it, it'll actually imprint the coordinates of that position right on the photo for me. So I'm going to hit Accept. and accept again to save the settings. So those are basically your media file settings. The vision settings are more when you're doing it. So now I want to talk about the live video feed in Trimble Access. So this is going to be using a Trimble total station. It's going to be either a Trimble VX, a S6 with vision, or a Trimble S8 with vision. Those are the three total stations that have the cameras built in. This particular example is going to be with the Trimble VX, and that's important because a couple of things I'm going to show you in a few minutes are a little bit different than how the S6 and the S8 work, but you'll get kind of the same result. So the first thing I want to do is access the live video feed. So to do that, in my main general survey screen, I'm going to choose my robot icon right here to bring up the Trimble functions screen. And to get the video feed, I'm going to choose the video button. So you can see right here what we have is the camera is on the VX, it's pointing at the building, and I also have some points measured. So one of the cool things about Trimble Vision is all of your points that you measured or that you measure are all overlaid in real time over the live video feed. And everything moves and shifts with the video. As you can see, as I move in, the points stay where they're supposed to. So it's kind of a nice feature that you can kind of see what you've measured overlaid on the live image. If I hit the contrast settings, I can change the balance for daylight or different types of lighting to maybe make the image look a little bit better. If I hit the up arrow, I have some different options for what I see here. I can have it display the elevations, for example. So now I have point names and elevations. I can also change it from name to none, so maybe I just only want to see elevations. And I can change it to maybe just the feature code, and you have some options to change the color of the overlay as well. So you can kind of customize that maybe depending upon what your daylight or your lighting options and things are, what looks better and is easier to see. So you can see here we're running with yellow, and we just have building for our codes. The other thing is if I pick the little camera options, I can go in here and I can modify the photo names to have the name be whatever I want. So I'm going to call this building_1, and as I take more photos, the numbers will go to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on. I can also set the image size and the compression. This can be important. We're going to talk about some photogrammetry and measuring photo points later on when we go back into Trimble Business Center. One of the benefits of having the large photos and the higher quality images is that when you're trying to zoom in to pick points off of photos to measure from, you're going to be able to see things a little crisper and your images won't be as pixelated. The downside is obviously memory and the time it takes to take a photo. So I will give you one tip right now if you're going to use these Trimble Vision functions. Maybe not so much for a single photo like we're going to do right now, but for doing panoramas and things like that. I personally suggest that you cable your data collector up to the total station when taking photos because it's going to probably double the speed of the photo taking process versus trying to send the information through the radio. So I'm just going to leave these at the default, hit accept, and now I have a camera soft key right here, and that is my snapshot or my button to tell the robot to take a picture. So the robot's taking a picture right now. And now I have a preview of the image. Notice when I take the picture, I don't have the points overlaid on the picture. It's just a clean photo. But when I go back to the live feed, I'll see the points again. So I like my picture. I'm going to hit store. And now I'm back to the live feed, and you can see I have the points. The other cool thing about the video feed is if I want to point the total station at anything, or if I'm running robotically, I'm obviously going to see myself in the video feed. I can just pick on the image, and it'll point right to where I want it to on the image. So you can see some of these different colored bricks here. I'm going to zoom in and just shoot some of these corners. And as soon as I pick on the corner, the robot will automatically turn up there. And then I can zoom in, pick the corner maybe a little bit tighter, and take my measurement. Also, if I'm running robotically and the robot loses me if I walk behind a tree or something like that, I don't have to use a track light or hit search or anything like that. I can basically tap my prism in the live video feed, and the robot will turn right to me and lock on my prism automatically. So Trimble Vision in the video feed can be a huge advantage in the field, in my opinion, with working with robotics. The next thing I want to talk about is doing panorama and station photos. So again, we're in our same project, but this time to take panorama photos, let me back up a couple seconds here. To take panorama photos, I have to do something a little bit different. I can't go to the live video feed. If you have a Trimble VX total station, you need to go to Measure, and then you need to choose Scanning from the list. Now the S6 and the S8, if they have vision, they don't have the scanning function. So to get to the panorama menus to take the panorama photos with those two robots, I don't have an example of it because all I had was the VX at the time. But instead of going to Measure and Scanning, with the S6 and the S8, you're actually going to go to the Instrument menu, and when you pick the Instrument menu, you're going to have a panoramic button there. And when you pick that button, it'll take you to a similar screen. So this is the video feed screen for the VX. I have my little polygon selector tool button right here, so when I choose that, it's going to bring up my panorama options. So you can see I have kind of these circles with the little green smiley face looking thing on it. And basically this is my commands to take a panoramic photo. So this one right here is the one we're going to use. This is to take a horizontal panorama, and this one is actually to take a vertical panorama. So you can do either one. So notice when I choose the panoramic button, I get these yellow boxes that show up. So these yellow boxes, based on my level of zoom and things like that, are the outlines of the photos that it's going to take. So this is going to be a photo, this is going to be a photo. This can be a little deceiving right here. We can actually set the overlap of the photos that we take. I'll show you that in a minute. So don't let this scare you. It's more or less just a reference frame to give you an idea of where the photos are going to be. So this is basically one row, full 360-degree row of photos that we're going to take at this zoom level. But maybe I want more of the building than just what I see there. So what I can do here is I can grab my pan button and pan down, and then I can actually grab the corner of this box and drag it down and make it even larger. I'll do it one more time here. So by making that larger vertically, it'll actually recalculate and take 2 or 3 rows of photos, whatever's needed to cover that. So I don't have to take one, move the scope down a little bit, take another. I can specify that all right away. On the right-hand side here, we also have some options. I have the same contrast options that we had before with the lighting. We also have snapshot commands. So when you see this little camera, this is to take a snapshot. So this is right here is to take the photo, and this has a little piece of paper. That's the snapshot settings. And then this button right here with the little tiled house icon, this is our panoramic settings. So we'll look at each one of these real quick here. By picking the snapshot, it's just like we did in the live video feed. We're just going to take a snapshot of the current view that the robot's looking at. So there's our picture. If I go up above that, again, you can see I'm up to building 3, so it's keeping the naming convention. And I can also go in here and I can adjust my image size and my compression like I was able to do in the live video feed. The other settings are the panorama settings. I went a little bit fast. Let me back up here. That's by picking this tiled icon here. Notice when I go in there, I have similar settings. So I can specify again whether it's extra large, large, medium type of photos, the compression, whether or not I want to fix the exposure for all the photos, and I can also put my percentage of overlap that I want between the photos. And it'll give me how many images it's going to capture. So right here it's going to actually take 2 rows of images, full 360 degrees. So for this particular panorama, we're going to have 50 photos. I hit start, and now it's just going to go through the process of capturing these photos. So we sped this up a little bit to make it a little bit more presentation friendly. But now that we're done, whoops. Now that we're done, it's going to bring us back to this is the last photo that it took. So it went through and it took all 50 of those photos, and they're all stored into our job. So the cool thing about this now is if I take this job file and I download it directly into Trimble Business Center, it's going to download all of those photos automatically, and I'm going to be able to view them, excuse me, view them and measure points off of them, and I'll have Mel show you that in a minute. So the first way we did the panorama here is just using the panorama button, telling it to do a full 360 and specifying the size. We can also do what we call a panorama photo, but we call it more or less a partial panorama photo. So versus doing a full 360-degree photo panorama like we did using these buttons, we can also specify a specific area and say, just take photos of that area. I'm not interested in everything behind me, let's say. So to do that, we're going to escape out of there, and we're back in the scanning screen. Now this is where the VX is a little bit different than the S6 and the S8. The VX, because it has the scanning capabilities, I can actually pick points on the screen and I can polygon in a building with an irregular shape, and it'll calculate and take the photos needed for that shape. The difference with the S6 and the S8 is I don't have the option to do the polygon. I basically can create a rectangle. And similar to what we did with the panorama, I can grab the corners and adjust the size of that rectangle as needed. But basically the result is going to be the same thing. So what we're doing here is we're just picking a few points on the screen to create our polygon. Now we have our polygon defined. We can go back and check our panorama settings. Notice based on this particular object was a ways away from us, so based on the distance from us and the area selected, it's only going to capture one image. But if it was a larger area, maybe it'd be 2, 3, 4, 5 images. It would tell you how many it's going to capture. But again, we have the same image size, compression settings, exposure, and the overlap like we did with the full 360. So now we took our photo. It's captured our single image, and now we have a panorama of just that area. So those are the vision and the panorama tools that are built into the vision-enabled robots. Some pretty neat stuff. The next, or I should say, the last thing I want to show you here is using media files with Trimble Access. So what we're going to do here is this is with the TSC3. If you guys are familiar with the TSC3s, you know that they have the built-in cameras. And basically what we're going to do here is take the TSC3 camera, take a photo of, say, a control point or an area of interest or whatever, and then we can specify to tag it to our particular point. The cool part about that is that's tagged in the job. So when we plug the TSC3 into our computer and we want to download it into Trimble Business Center, those photos will import with the points, and the points will be flagged as having a media file, and we can view all those photos. So similar with the station photos and the snapshots with the robots, having these media files, it's just, like we always say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's just more kind of real-world information and more data that you can add to your survey. So I'll run through the process of how to do this here. So I have the same project again, and what I need to do is open the camera on the TSC3. So to do that, you're going to hit the function button, the yellow, it says FN on it in yellow. It's the function button and the number 1, and that's going to open the camera. So what we're looking at here is the video feed. You can see, back up a little bit here, you can kind of see me moving around, trying to find focus in. Now that I'm focused, I'm going to hit OK, and you can see now it took a snapshot. We got a little PK nail right there. If I hit OK again, now it's going to bring me back to my camera view. So what I want to do here is to close this, I want to hit OK again. And now it brings me back to Trimble Access into my media file settings. So now what I have here is a preview snapshot of the photo I took, the image name, and now it's going to say, what do you want to link it to? So I can do previous point, next point, point name, just like we saw in the settings. I'm going to choose point name, and it's asking me for a specific point. So if I know it, I can manually key the name in. Otherwise, I can hit this little right arrow box and hit list, and it's going to give me a list of all the points in my project. So I'm going to link it to point 3. If I go to the next page, I can geotag the image if I wish and hit accept. And now the image is tagged to point number 3. So I could move on and I could keep going, but let's say I want to add some additional photos to this. I can go back into the camera by hitting the function and the 1 button on the keypad of my TSC3. So I'm going to take a picture of the VX here. Hit OK. Go back to the camera. Let's say I take a picture of the building. Hit OK. So notice I took 2 pictures right in a row. So now I go back when I close the camera down. It brings me back to this general survey, and it's going to actually go through all the pictures I took now and say, okay, where do you want to tag these to? So I want to tag these 2 photos to point number 3 as well. So when I hit accept, it switches to the next photo. Looks good, and I'm back to my main screen. So that is basically what I wanted to show you with the field procedures for Trimble Vision. So we looked at using background images. We looked at the snapshots and the measuring off the live video feed. We looked at doing panoramas and station photos, and we also looked at media files. So that's kind of the field procedure side of this. What I want to do next is turn this back over to Mel, and Mel's going to show you what the office procedure looks like. All right, Mel, we can see your screen.
Thanks, Jay. Terrific job. I've taken care of the square. It was a browser interface, browser conflict, so that's all taken care of. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yep, looks good.
All right. So we'll move on to the office portion of this presentation. But before we get into the office side, we just wanted to go quickly through a photogrammetry theory on how these two, how the images are being able to be shot from one station and a second station, and then basically do an intersection for a measurement. So you saw the power of vision in Jay's demonstration. And now, once that image or panoramas have been captured, basically this PowerPoint or this slide is showing you that we took a picture. It could have been a picture, or it could have been a complete, partial, or full pano from station 1. And now, since we have a station on a known point, and we took a picture or a pano from that point, we're able to now measure an observation. And in this case, it's the top of the power structure here. Now you're able to do the same thing because there was a picture, again, of the same location from station 2, or a pano, or a partial panel. And now you're able to take a measurement, which is called measure photo point, from observation 2. This capability has been given to us because we've got the camera that's been aligned to 3 axes. It's the trunnion axis, the vertical axis, and the sighting axis. And because the camera has been aligned to those 3 axes, that's why everything that Jay showed you in his presentation, if he clicks on a point through using the camera function, the gun is moving to exactly that point. And so whatever you're seeing is accurately being measured using robotic technologies. So what I'm going to do now is move over to my Trimble Business Center and run it through some settings that are necessary on Trimble Business Center before we start going into my functions, which is assigning media and processing panoramas and measuring photo points. So under the File tab, under Options, there's a photogrammetry section. And here, there's some settings that you need to be aware of that are important to help you get your photogrammetry set up properly. The number of station views is defaulted to 3. If you have a fairly fast processor, that's probably about the maximum number of station views you'll want to use. However, I will make note, if you have a slower system or a legacy laptop, you would probably want to minimize your station views to 1 or 2. The object selector aperture is used in a static view option, which you'll see demonstrated that we can display and pick pictures dynamically or statically. The display object selector in grayscale is defaulted off, but I'm going to actually turn this on because this is I prefer this when I'm doing measure photo points, and you'll see this in action here when I roll into the live demo. The dynamic object selector, this box is default checked, and when it is checked, it causes the object selector to display by default as a magnifier, and you're going to see this. And by using the Control-Alt key, you can change your reticle sighting and be able to pick more accurately. However, when you uncheck this box, it moves into a static selector, and it's a different type of operation. The station field of view vision indicator, this whole section in here deals with some color, the indicator length, and some transparency that you'll see displayed in plan view, and I'll show you this in a second. So those are the main settings for the measure photo points under the photogrammetry tab, and we have them set up, so I'm going to hit OK here and move into our demonstration. I've got 2 station views already up, but what I'm going to do here is just so you can see a little bit clearer what's going on, is my plan view. And in my plan view, you see 3 station setups. You see 3 control points, 10, 20, and 30. The blue vectors were shot, indicating this was shot with RTK using VRF here on the front range. These 3 control points have 2 partial panels, like Jay mentioned to you, from 10, and then 30. These are partial panos, and then a complete 360-degree panel on station number 20. So that's kind of the setup of what you're going to see in the back office. Today's demonstration, Trimble has a new building located in Colorado, and the building you're going to see us take photo points from is that building. And to do a little preview, it's perfect timing. I'll show you how to assign and view media files. So Jay showed you in the TSC3 using Access the power of media files, and it's a great example. I know people who are now taking pictures with the TSC3 of the monuments or the control that they are observing, and by taking a picture, it has the LS number, the type of control, the order of the control, etc. So I thought I would use this point, which is 2007, as an example of how to assign or look at review media files. Since I picked point 2007, you see there's a little folder, piece of paper here that's indicating there's a media file associated with this point. Over here on the Project Explorer, because I've highlighted 2007 on my screen, it's also highlighted here in Project Explorer. And if I expand, you notice there's a media folder icon. And again, by expanding that, you see that there's 2 images, just like Jay demonstrated during his demonstration. If I was to double-click on this media folder here, you see that I'm able to review or view that media file. So this happened to be a light pole, and I took a picture of the light pole on the upper portion of it. And again, I took a second picture, which was the base, and this could have indicated some damage or some corrosion. And so that's basically how you would view a media file. I'll close this down. Point 2006 is on the north northeast corner of the building. And if you don't know, you can actually use a standard camera. I have pictures on this project that are just using a Nikon Coolpix. And also, I took a GoPro camera out there that's able to take still images and also video. And if, like Jay says, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, video's worth obviously a lot more. And I'm going to show you the power of adding video to this point. So by picking point 2006, I'm able to right-click, and you can actually assign media files and remove media files there. And you can also do this once you open Project Explorer. So again, by picking Project Explorer, my point's highlighted, and there's no media files associated with this point. By right-clicking, I can assign a media file. In this case, I'm going to assign a GoPro video. I've downloaded all my GoPro videos into my project folder up here, Trimble Business Center, the project, into a folder I made called Media. And if I change my icons, I know that that point is actually this right here. So I'm going to double-click it. And now you see a media icon indicated on 2006. If I go back to Project Explorer, I'm able to now expand to point 2006, double-click on the media, and actually hit play. And you'll see a 360 video or a pano of that of the Trimble building, which is a great lead into the total station that you see that was set up right here for one of the vision points. So nice, clean video being added to a project. This video, you're not hearing it, actually has video and audio. So it's a great way of capturing information and linking it into a project. And this information, again, has great value into a GIS system. So I'm going to shut down this and now move into transition into processing panoramas. So we've shown you how to assign and view media files, and now I am going to move into how to take these partial panos or complete 360 panos and process them. So we're moving from the Home tab over to the Photogrammetry tab. It's really exciting that in Trimble Business Center version 3, we've actually added all vision components, both aerial and terrestrial, into one tab here. Today, as I mentioned, we're just discussing the terrestrial portion, which is process panoramas and also measured photo points. So I'm going to show you how to process panoramas by clicking on this icon. So we have 3 station setups, and these 3 icons are indicated down here. The first one will balance the exposure for all images, so you'll have a uniform look, and that's nice because as lighting changes, sometimes some images have a different hue or tint. The second icon is to blend the edges of adjoining images so they look less noticeable, and that's nice. And then the last one is to create the panorama KMZ file, which can be imported into GIS softwares such as Google Earth and Esri products. So I'm going to turn these on real fast and go ahead and click Process. It's really that easy, not a lot to do, but you're going to see the real power is what I was mentioning in my lead into vision technologies while this is going. Now you can deliver points, northings, eastings, and elevations, but you can deliver GIS attributed information, and you can also deliver into a GIS the complete panoramic view into your GIS, and that's pretty powerful, and I'm going to show you this in just a second. So everything processed, I'm going to click Close here, and I'm going to go to my folder here for my project under Trimble Business Center Vision and under GE Panorama. I'm going to go ahead and double-click on one of my KMZ files that I just created. It automatically launches Google Earth, and the powerful thing about this, you can give your survey manager this output. You could give a GIS manager or someone who doesn't know a lot about software, and all they have to do is really just click on this KMZ file, and it's automatically going to roll in and show the project site and the complete pano. And that's pretty powerful. You can exit the photo. It shows you where it is spatially. And it's very powerful, pretty powerful stuff. And again, if you double click on this, it just brings you right back into the pano. So I'm going to close out of this and move into now measure photo points. So in the photogrammetry option settings, I showed you that the conical display and transparency of those station setups and the viewpoints, that's what you're seeing here in this red cone from point 10 and 30. Since we're moving into the measure photo point, the plan view is not real important, so I'm going to slide this down and give me more of a view here. For the demonstration today, we've taken VR shots to be able to proof check how accurate measure photo point can be. And what I'm going to do is use point 1003 as my example. So I'm going to move over to measure photo point here, and it brought up this dialog box. For our purpose today, I'm going to keep my points separated, so I'm going to call this 3003 because it's point 1003, and this is just how I do things. I get assigned a feature code if I have a feature code library. I'll just call it VP for vision point. And then I move into this object location. Once I move into this screen, you notice that, like I said, I'm in a dynamic selector, and by pressing Control-Alt, I get to have different targets set up. I'm going to move it close to where I need to be, and then I can use my left, right, down arrows to get this exactly more micro-adjusted where I want to be and pick on my screen. Once I pick on my screen there, I'm able to go to my other point over here, and then again, micro-adjust using my left, right arrow keys, and pick again. There's a recompute that's needed, and I could hit it there or I could hit it up here, and now I can close this down. And that's how easy it was to measure a photogrammetry point. I'm going to go over to Project Explorer. You see that the point now exists here, and it's showing you that it came from station 10 and from station 30. To show you how accurate that was, I'm going to go over to Survey and go over to Inverse, and I'll inverse from 1003 to 3003. And that was 7 millimeter accuracies. I will close this down and just point out one last thing before I pass this, before we move on. That point at 1003 is what you call ideal from station 10 and 30. It's almost a 90 degree. And if you, we're going to show you where to get some more information and learn. You'll see that there's a white paper. And if you read the white paper, the strength of geometry, there's a strength of geometry figure in there. And high strength of geometry would be in this location. When you take shots like from 10 to 305 or 105 in this angle, even though it has a weaker geometry, you'll still see that these measurements are fairly accurate. I'll show you that right now by doing a quick inverse on a measurement I've already done, so 1005 to 3005. And so even though it's not ideal geometry, I'm still at 1.5 centimeters using non-ideal geometry. The last thing I want to show you here under the photogrammetry tab, under measure points, is that we have the ability to launch this new photo spreadsheet, which actually will give you this information in a spreadsheet form. This spreadsheet's really nice because if you've done some photogrammetry points and you haven't actually taken both measurements, it will show you this as unresolved. And then all your measurements that have been resolved show you all the information that you would need. And so this is what I was mentioning about the strength of figure. And that strength of figure is a system used to measure the accuracy of geometry for photogrammetric measurements or intersections. And the intersection angles near 90 are optimal, and that would correspond with a large strength of figure values. And then those angles less than 30 or greater than 120, which is also good to know, would give you a large strength of figure. And what you ideally are wanting is a low strength of figure. But however, even though you saw that the strength of figure is at 3005 was higher, it's still measured with great degree of accuracy. So with that said, I'm going to move on with our PowerPoint presentation. So in summary, Trimble Vision is pretty awesome technology. I like to be able to see what the instrument sees. It gives me some power that I didn't have as a surveyor before. The output of Vision gives me some increased opportunities to my clients. If I'm a traditional surveyor and saying I'll give you a deliverable with just a PNEZD file format, compared to a customer that has Vision technologies and says I'll give you a point, northern, eastern elevation description file, but I'll also give you attributed information and even information that can be video or pano of that site. I think the deliverable truly outshines any of your competition. Allows you to capture this information so that if you roll back into the office, and this has been the case that we're hearing from our clients, and they miss something, again, you can take measurements back in the office that you might have missed in the field, and more importantly, both Vision actively in the field and in the office. Sometimes it's just better to not be doing this kind of work in the field due to safety risks. And I think that Trimble Vision really brings a lot to the safety and minimizing risk. And now what's next for someone who attended this webinar? I would encourage you to take part in our blog, which is at www.fpisurvey.com. I've been doing, Jay and our team, all of us have been adding great information to our blog. We have a thing called Tech Talk, and they're live videos, and they're demonstrating how to do small little specificity functions that are surveying related. I would encourage you to read the white paper that is available, and again, it will go into the weeds on Vision technology if you're the person that wants to really know the in-depth detail of Vision. There's a tutorial that you could practice with that's available in the tutorial section. I do want to take the time to show this because it's important. Right here under File, under the Start page, there's tutorials, and these tutorials are what you're seeing us show in this practice with tutorials. And there is actually a tutorial on measuring photogrammetry points. And lastly, I would add that tutorial with you just trying it yourself. And if you have any questions, we have an excellent team of support people and sales guys that can get you up and operating with Trimble Vision technologies. I'd like to now just kind of turn this over to Steve. We can kind of discuss the Vision solution bundles so we understand how this technology can be integrated into your organization.
Well, thanks, fellas. That was pretty enlightening, even for myself. I learned some things. It's amazing some of the power when we just talk about vision. A lot of us may think about the vision total stations and that you can do scanning, or maybe you can do photogrammetry because we've been talking about it for the last few months. But in our mind, vision also includes the ability to take photos with your data collector, the ability to take photos with your camera, or like Mel had demonstrated with the GoPro, and assign that to a particular point of interest with a right mouse click is pretty powerful software. So I do want to stress the importance that to do a lot of this vision stuff, you need to have a vision total station. You also need to make sure you're using a Trimble Business Center advanced version, not standard version, not an unlicensed version of TPC, but an advanced version. So with that in mind, you'll notice here on this slide that Trimble has put together a few bundles. For those of you that are not aware, there is actually an S6 version of the S6 total station that is considered a Vision S6. Obviously the VX has been around for a while. And then the S8, which is a more accurate, more precise instrument, also used for monitoring and things like that, that they put together these little bundles to allow users to get into the technology maybe at a reduced price. So that's available, and that's something you can take up with your Frontier representative. With that, I think what we want to do is we want to move on to the question phase. We've been asking our users to, or our attendees, I'm sorry, to chat their questions or put them in the question section of the GoToWebinar. I have a few of them that I've answered, and we'll go through those. A few that I have not, because I think they're pretty common and want to make sure that everyone hears those and understands them. Just before we do that, I will make one more plug. We're trying to do this webinar, informative webinars here on a monthly basis. So with that in mind, you'll see that our next survey-related thank you. Our next survey-related webinar is on narrow-banded radios. Legally, we're all supposed to be running our TK equipment with a narrow-banded UHF radio, and once we do that, it's not as easy as we'd like it to be, to flip the switch and go narrowband and expect everything to operate the same exact way as it used to. So with that, we've had a lot of questions. Customers experiencing less range, more range, less power, things of that nature. We want to address all of that in our next webinar, and that's scheduled for July 19th at 10 a.m. Central Time. And so make sure you go to our website, frontierprecision.com, and with a login to our main website, you'll see on the right-hand side the ability to register for this next webinar. It's going to be about an hour long, but we're going to just discuss best practices and how you can get the best out of your narrow-banded radio and make sure that it's working optimally for you. With that, what we'll do is we'll go through these questions, and I will have Mel and Jay, the experts on this vision technology, answer some of these questions for you. So with that, let's go ahead and start with the first question. What I have here, let me undock this and make it a little bigger so I can see the whole questions. First one, our county uses UTM meters, and our projects are always in a county coordinate system. So how do we import a UTM projected photo into an existing project that would be in county coordinates? Very good question. I think I know the answer, but I will maybe see if one of the other guys might pick this one up.
I'd like to hear you try to answer that one.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, I want you to do it because I'm not sure I understand what he's asking. So a photo is, I'm
Yeah, so
assuming he's
your
saying like a
first, this is
background
when,
photo, right?
yeah, this is when, I'm sorry, Jay, this is when you were clipping out an image to put on your
Okay.
controller. You were stressing the importance that you have the world
Sure.
file, and that world file needs to be in your coordinate system of choice.
Okay.
So when you do that, my assumption is that you make sure that your project is set up in UTM and in meters, and then import the photo that you're going, or the image that you're going to clip out, and then you can change your coordinate system. Is that right?
That's what I would probably do. Is I'd probably create a project with the UTM, bring the photo in so it comes in the right place, and then change the coordinate system to your county after the fact.
After the
And
photo's been imported.
after the photo's been imported, and that should do it. I'd have to test it to make sure, but that's how I would do it anyways.
And then along that same line, Jay, you were talking about clipping out an area because these images get to be extremely large and maybe too large for the data collector. Do you have a recommended size on what those files should be?
Yeah.
Because I know a TSC2 may operate a little differently than a
Yeah.
TSC3 just based on memory.
That's a very good question. I would say to try to keep it down to under 5 megabytes for a TSC3. You may be able to go larger. And keep in mind, if you get larger, you're going to have some lag time in the map screen. You know, when you try to pan or zoom in and zoom out, it'll to an extent it'll still work. It'll just be kind of choppy and slow. You might get to a point where if the image is too large, it'll just crash it all together. So I would say as a rule of thumb with the TSC3, probably try to stay under maybe the 5 megabyte range. TSC2 certainly doesn't have the same processing power and speed as a TSC3, so I would say with that maybe the 3 megabyte or less range. That's the way I look at it is you don't need, unless you're in a really complicated area, you maybe don't need a ton of detail on your background image on the data collector. But if you do, then to get around it, you can maybe take some smaller screen captures and just load multiple screen captures on, and then just load and unload as needed if you need the detail to get around it. But
I agree with that, Jay. That's good. That's good strategy on any data collector.
Yeah, the keeping it's just like using a DXF file or a shape file even as a background map. We didn't talk about that, but just get rid of all the irrelevant information that you don't need, because keeping that file size down is going to be key.
Yeah, we had a great question on using a feature and attribute library. Do you have to create a photo attribute to have the photo attached to the total station point, or will it give you the option to select previous point? So we were trying to just stay focused on vision and media in a simple format, but the question's actually a great question and preferred way of doing things if you're really trying to send this information, which is attributed information, so things like menu-driven, text-driven, date-time-driven information on a point plus with a photo. Yes, we would encourage you to use a feature code and attribute library, and in there assign a photo point. When you take your measurement, the attribute would pop up, and then also from that attribute, by using a photo point, the camera function would be right there, and you would actually be linking that photo to that point. And then when you send that into either Autodesk Map or ArcGIS, you would actually have that attributed information plus the photo point. So excellent question. We were just trying to keep it simple here using the snap tool that Jay showed, going to manually assigning it to a point. Jay, do you have any other, if you have anything more to add to that? That was a great question.
I don't think so. I do think from a GIS standpoint, to get that to come across, you probably like Mel said, have a feature and attribute library. You can have the quick and easy tag as a media file, but if you want it to export as part of the attribute, Mel, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you want it to go into GIS, you also need it saved as an attribute, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can essentially do both. It's still going to be one photo. It's just basically going to be referenced twice, if that makes sense.
All right, let's go to the next question. Does TBC support imagery files other than TIFF, such as SID or JPEG?
Yes. That gets asked quite a bit. It'll support TIFFs, JPEGs, PNG files, and there might be one or two more. I have to check with this latest version of this 3.0 version, but as of 2.81, it did not support SID files. I know that that's been requested multiple times, and I know I personally requested it, and Trimble is aware of it. I just don't know if it's been built into this last release or not. So I guess to give you the safe answer, I would say probably not SID files, but stay tuned.
Yeah, that's a great question. They've been looking into supporting both ECW, which is another compression format, and SID. But as of right now, just thought I'd do a quick search on the image on that. So go to the next question. I'll look that up.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it in the release notes, and I know it wasn't in 2.8, so I would say right now probably not SID files.
What about using a jump drive for the photos? And I answered this one as well while you guys were presenting. But keep in mind a jump drive would be great and a safe way to put your photos and move them around. However, you want to have your photos and your jobs together. So as Mel demonstrated, when you download to your TBC project, your photos come in with the job file and they're attached to the points as he demonstrated in the software. So you want to make sure that that job file resides in that same directory if possible.
I guess I'd like to add to that too, if you don't mind. You know, we showed the media files using the camera on the TSC3. Obviously, the TSC2s don't have a camera, but maybe it's easier to manage your photos with the guy in the field taking the photos versus handing it to an office person saying, here, tag these to these points. There are things you can do with the TSC2. You can get a, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's still available, but you can get the iFi card from Trimble, which is basically a high-capacity standard SD card that would go in any camera, but it also has Wi-Fi in it. And you can pretty much put that in your own camera, take a photo with your camera, and the iFi card will wirelessly send it over to your data collector. So if you have a TSC2, you can actually kind of send the images via Wi-Fi and tag them that way if you don't have the built-in camera.
That's available. How to do that's available in the Access Help. And
Okay.
You can get that both in PDF or live on your data collector. And Jay was correct. 301 just popped out, and the import georeference images are still the same, which is BMP, GIF, JPEG, and TIFF. No image compression. That's pretty common out there, which is SID format or ECW.
Okay, just a couple more questions. And this is also answered during the session. Can you save an image with the point information on it, like in the live video feed? And traditionally, we're taking an image that is just an image. It doesn't have the point information on it. You can geotag the photo, but you can't put point information on it in such a way that you could have your code, point number, right on the photo, nothing like that, with a live video feed.
But I kind of like that.
Backdoor trick.
Oh, sorry, Mel. Go ahead.
I was going to say a backdoor trick, though, if I'm understanding this correct, if you had to have the information that, like Jay showed you, once you take the picture, there was no point information or point name or elevation on there. You can download aftermarket screen capture software that captures the screen, which ultimately is a picture, and then would have that information on there.
I'd also like to add that I have been actually asked that a couple of times, and I think it's worthwhile. You know, at the very least, we can certainly submit that as an enhancement request too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, have the option to either take a snapshot with or without the overlay. That's actually a pretty good idea.
And vision instruments available for rental. Yes, we do have vision instruments available for rental. TBC will not send up a file greater than 2 megabytes unless this is recently changed. I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, I went back
limitation.
and I did a quick check on the snip outs that I did, and they were both under a megabyte. So unless you're doing a very, very large file, I don't think you're going to run into issues with file size.
Those are all the questions that I see here in the question and answer session. We'll put these in an FAQ as well and make them available, as well as the playback of this session on our blog site. One other, if you go back to that previous slide there, one other session that we do have on the MGIS side is the introduction of the new Trimble TerraFlex software. Look for that also on our website. You can register there. That session is, when is the date on that specifically?
July 18th. Yeah, July 18th.
July 18th. So July 18th, you can see how to outfit your mobile workforce with the new Trimble TerraFlex mobile software for handhelds, iPhones, Androids, things like that. Attend that session. It'll be very, very informative, and that'll be on July 18th. If you have more questions or further information, you can certainly contact one of our offices. Otherwise, I just want to thank everybody for today for attending, and again, look for the playback on our blog site here in the next week or so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.